Hey guys, I'm going to be doing my review of the Full Coverage Foundation from MAC. This is in the color NC20. And as you can tell, this is a huge container. It's got 28 grams or 1 ounce in it, which compared to Studio Tech Foundation from MAC, it's almost 3 times as much for the same price. So I'm going to run down my little list of things you should know about this. Number 1, the coverage, full coverage. It is the same formulation as Studio Finish Concealer without the SPF. So if you like that concealer, you will love this foundation. It's very cost effective to be used as a concealer, but it's also, you know, for a mid-end brand, it's very inexpensive when used as a foundation. So the texture of it, it's creamy enough to be blendable, but it's basically a concealer. So it's a harder consistency than your average cream foundation, and it's really made to you know, to be a full coverage foundation. It's really meant to cover your skin, you know. So the skin type that I would recommend this for, you know, I have dry skin and it's great for me because it does have jojoba oil in it. It's an emollient foundation. Also good for oily skin because it has great staying power. The only thing I would avoid, if you have very flaky skin, if it's the kind of flaky skin that comes up despite being moisturized, despite being exfoliated, this is not the foundation for you. Like any concealer, it is going to stick. It's going to cake up in those dry spots. You know, sometimes I'll get it around my nose. And unless you can keep up with, you know, making sure your skin is really flake-free, this is not going to look good on you. It's going to cake up pretty bad. The packaging of this, as you can see, it doesn't have any of the sort of luxury things in it that like Studio Tech foundation does have, where, you know, the Studio Tech has a sponge and a mirror and a little compartment below. This is a pro product, so it's not really made for like the consumer to use. That being said, you know, it's not upsetting me that I don't have a mirror on this. You know, I don't need a mirror and a sponge compartment. So, you know, I've heard people complain that the packaging is cheap, but you're not paying for the packaging, or at least you shouldn't be. You're paying for what's inside. The color selection on this gets a big, fat thumbs down. That is the only thing that really bums me out about this product. They do not make, as far as I could find, they absolutely, I know, don't make NC25. I asked them, and I know they absolutely don't make C25. I'm not sure about the NW range or the W range, just because I'm not in that, on that end of the color spectrum, but the color selection is really limited. And I think that's because, as a pro product, I think professional makeup artists are more likely to be mixing foundations to achieve those like in-between colors. That being said, I am an exact NC25. I went up to NC30, and it was very, very close, but since it's about to become winter and there was a touch of orange on it, it just wasn't quite right for me. So I went down to NC20. It is too pale for me a little bit, but seeing as I'm going to be losing my tan anyway, or my tan, I decided to go with it. Also, since I'm using it more like a concealer right now, I'm just doing a very light sort of wash over it and then doubling up on the areas I need it. It doesn't look, you know, if I applied this very heavily, I would look way too pale, but the way I'm using it, it's not that big of a deal. But this is a foundation you have to go try on, just because due to the way this foundation goes on, there's not a lot of room for color match error, you know, like whereas with a tinted moisturizer, since it's sheer, if you do a color too dark, you know, big deal. Whereas if you do a color too dark with this, it's going to look really weird. So that's really a bummer. But, you know, I could always get both colors and mix them, but I just don't really want to do that. Alright, so application, this is what I use to apply it, a little sponge. The thing is, you have to apply this with a wet sponge. You know, there's just no other way to do it. I wish I could say, you know, use this foundation brush or blah, 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 because I know people don't like to use sponges a lot, but it's just going to look really heavy and really cakey unless you put it on with a sponge. Now, if you're looking for a crazy full coverage, yeah, go ahead and use a regular foundation brush to blend it on, but I'm sort of looking to get a mid-coverage foundation, so I use a wet sponge and I shear it out on my face, and it just allows it to blend really naturally with my skin, as opposed to sort of, you know, because I like full coverage foundations, but I don't, sometimes I want to vary the amount of coverage I get, so a wet sponge is going to give you a lot of control over that, whereas when you're using a dry brush or a stippling brush, the coverage you're going to get is pretty much the same. It's very hard to vary. As for a stippling brush, I can't really say as to how well that works, because The problem with my dry skin is when I use a stippling brush and I'm rubbing it in like that, stippling it on and blending it in, it roughs up my skin and gives me flaky skin and therefore gives me really cakey foundation. So if you're a lot oilier, that may work for you. I can't really say, but I do know a foolproof way, if you're not sure of how to do it, is a wet sponge. You use a wet sponge. Everybody hates sponges, but they're awesome. Alright. The staying power of this, I would say, is really good. It is basically a concealer, so it is made to stick on those spots. You know, it's not the kind of foundation that's going to slide off your face. I use a primer under it, and it just, you know, it sticks on all day for me. It just works. It works really well without looking sort of dry and yucky by the end of the day, so staying power just gets a definite thumbs up. Alright, best thing is the price versus the value. As I've said before, Studio Tech Foundation, you get, what is it, 10 grams of product for $30. In this, you get 28 grams of product for $30. This is the most cost-effective foundation I have found. I know Laura Mercier makes one that's almost 1.5 ounces, I think. There's a couple other companies where they make, you know, they give you more product, but it's a lot more expensive. And when you break this down, price per gram, this is actually as much or less than a lot of the drugstore foundations, cream foundations you can find in a compact. So the value of this is absolutely excellent. That's one of the reasons I love it, is because most cream foundations, you run through them like that. Like they're gone so fast. So this is definitely a great value. Would I repurchase? That one, I would repurchase if the color availability was better. It just really sucks because the product itself is perfect for me, just perfect all around. But, you know, with the color selection the way it is, maybe I can, when I get a little darker during the summer, I should try the NC30 again. You know, I don't really know. But as for the actual product, if you can find a color match, I would absolutely recommend this. I probably will end up repurchasing this just because I can't get over how good the price is. But I'll sort of have to fool around to see how to get it to match my skin better and maybe mixing it with something else. So anyway, that is my review of the MAC Full Coverage Foundation. As for its availability, I just want to mention that this is a pro product. It's not discontinued, but it's a pro product. And that means that you have to get it either off the pro website, by ordering by phone off of Mac Pro, or by going into a freestanding Mac Pro store. In answer to a lot of people wonder, you know, do you have to be a professional to buy Pro Mac stuff? No, you don't. However, I mean, anyone can walk into the store and buy any Pro products they want, but the only difference is if you don't have a Pro card, you're not going to get a discount. Mac professionals, I think they get, what, 20 to 40% discount? I'm not sure, but, you know, so whatever. Us common folk just have to do without the discount. But this is one of those products where I think it's worth the drive to your closest Pro store, because you're never going to run out of this. Especially if you use it as a concealer, you're never going to run out. Okay, so I hope that was helpful for you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.